have Elena Shi. Elena is an assistant professor of American Studies and Ethnic Studies and faculty affiliate in the Department of Sociology at Watson Institute for International Studies. She's current book project, Manufacturing Freedom, Moral and Political Economics of Global Human Trafficking Rescue, is a global ethnography of the transitional social movement to combat human trafficking in China, Thailand, and the United States.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. As Bella Robinson of Coyote, Rhode Island mentioned earlier today, June 2nd is International Sex Workers Day, celebrated all around the world. It's so special that here in Providence, we are here at this rally, which is against criminalization. And so I'm incredibly humbled to be with all these amazing organizers who came before me. I want to talk a little bit about SESTA and FOSTA, which the majority of sex worker organizations are rallying against throughout the country today. The Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act and the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act, passed back in March and April, have had dire consequences and increased the policing of not only sex workers but our community and sort of freedoms at large. This has been the consequence of anti-trafficking programs globally, and I just want to tell you 3 ways that right here in Providence, anti-trafficking is fundamentally anti-immigrant, racist, and transphobic. So first, starting in the year 2000, the United States jumps on this really global anti-trafficking policy bandwagon and creates a really, really special category of citizenship rights for people who can prove that they've been trafficked to the United States. It sounds great. What has that meant? That has meant that a very, very narrow people who can prove that they are so-called victims of force, fraud, and coercion and brought to this country to work against their will are deserving of amnesty. But what does that inevitably do? It criminalizes the vast majority of all other kinds of irregular, undocumented migration. So right here in Providence, what does that look like? It looks like the policing of Asian massage parlors. Fanatical. In 2014, we did a research project. It started off with surveying 48 different Asian massage parlors across the state, and in that year, because of police crackdowns, there were only 2 left by the time we finished that research, because all had been shut down. What happens when they get shut down? The Providence Journal runs an article about how they've rescued victims of sex trafficking and stopped trafficking, and all of those workers are systematically deported. So trafficking is a very, very nice way to control immigration. Why is it racist? Because anti-trafficking rescue organizations receive hundreds of thousands of dollars locally. That is money that we are not getting, that our organizing efforts are not getting, because they are being paid to train people to identify victims of trafficking. What does that look like? That looks like new and inspiring modes of civilian vigilante justice. So our postal workers are being trained to report to the police if they see 3 or more women of color moving in to a so-called dingy 3rd floor apartment together because they might be engaging in sex work. And finally, why is it transphobic? In 2016, Rhode Island Domestic Service Agency, Sojourner House, received a $200,000 Victims of Crime Act grant to start the state's only anti-trafficking shelter. Again, sounds great. They have reserved those dozen or so beds only to female victims of sex trafficking, largely excluding the vast majority of the population, as has been so well documented, of trans sex workers of color who are most in need of these services. So I think that anti-trafficking can garner so much support, and in all of these efforts to fight back against criminalization, we see like the actual efforts that are meeting the needs of people who might turn to sex work for fundamental needs to meet their family or as a response to living under state violence. Thank you all. Woo!